In this video, I want to give you over 10 different ways to position your business to be more attractive to receive publicity and become more interesting to journalists. So let's get started right away. The first idea is that you just want to make your business more unique or add unique twists. In a different part of this course, we talk about Seth Godin's concept of purple cow. Obviously, a purple cow does not exist, and that's actually what you want to do. You want to create something unique that just grabs attention. And people, if they see a purple cow, they go like, oh my God, wow, it's a purple cow. Because, other cows, they're not that interesting because you've seen a million of them or it doesn't grab attention. But once you add a unique twist to something, it's more interesting. An example of that would be years ago, I ran a group hiking website. And hiking, it's plain old hiking. It's fun, but it's not so exciting. And then I found a hiking path that was along the ocean from which during low tide, you can see shipwrecks from decades ago peeking from the water. And then I created that hike, like it was called Shipwreck Hike Hunt during low tide or something like that. And that hike, the first time I posted it, the major newspaper of my city picked it up, published it, and it had like 200 people physically show up, whereas previous hikes had like 5 or 10 people. And they picked it up without me knowing. I was asking people, how did you know about this? Why is there 200 people at my event? And they're like, well, the paper published it on the front page because it was that interesting. It's a true story. All from unique positioning. It can be a plain old same thing that you've seen many times before, but just add a unique twist. And then what did I do? I started doing themed hikes to see a statue of Yoda. People, who are Star Trek fans were really into that. Then I started doing like military history hikes, nature hikes, all themed, all unique, and it drew really cool, unique crowds each time. And I was able to get a lot of publicity, and the journalists started knowing me by name and started being more ready to publish my stuff because they knew more unique things were coming. This was many years ago for me, but that actually led to the success of that business. A lot of publicity for free just because the hikes were unique. Of course, you can also name drop. Like part of my hikes were name dropping. Like I would go to the Star Wars and Yoda themed things, and when people saw that, fans of Star Wars, they saw that and they were like, wow, amazing. But also you can name drop, like if you have research that's backed by some university, well, that university, that's a big name. Or if you're doing something with celebrities or events, well, you can have names, not in a cheesy way, like name dropping can be cheesy in social contexts, but for marketing, that grabs attention. And you don't have to change your business too much. You just have to change things a little bit in positioning. And of course, you can do things like current event piggybacking. So for example, during springtime, I would do more about flowers because that's when flowers were blooming. And let's say you sell t-shirts. Well, you can create, let's say, t-shirts based on any current event. Something happens in the news today. Today you create a design, slap it on the t-shirt. Tomorrow you're selling the t-shirt online. And then you start being interesting because, well, it's topical. Or let's say you create content and let's say there's some major event. The first day of the major event is where the main stories are published about that event. The second day, it's like, what did the parents and the spouses say of the participants of the event? The third day, the journalists run out of things to write about. And if you have something on it, piggybacking from that event, well, because the journalists ran out of headlines, but that event is still hot, they might pick up your stories. And let's say something happens today. Well, almost anyone can immediately write a blog post, and then you can take that blog post and share it on all kinds of social media sites, Twitter, using the hashtag of that event, and maybe that will get reshared, retweeted, get picked up by journalists, etc. Now, moving on, there are other things you can do for your positioning. Like, let's say you're in some niche, like the pet niche. And then, of course, a natural thing to do would be to give some of your proceeds to pet charities so that you can get publicity for being a good player, not just a greedy company, but a company who actually cares about the pets. And so you maybe would donate some portion of your revenue to pet charities, and that would actually bring you very positive attention right away. And something else you might do, let's say you have clients and you help clients in some way. Well, successful client case studies are very powerful. Like if you help people make money and you have a successful client, like I had a client who reached millions of revenue on Amazon. And then everyone else who was curious about getting my coaching for selling products on Amazon, after I told them about this one client case study and I showed them what that client did, it became so much easier to sell my coaching service. And it was so much easier to get attention based on the big numbers that this client achieved. And all you have to do is just promote, help extra to one client, make them extra successful, and then use them as a case study that really jumps out and grabs attention. And of course, anytime you can create something innovative and new, your whole company doesn't have to be innovative and new, but some twist can be innovative and new, and that will immediately attract curiosity from journalists and from people who blog and from influencers who might promote you. Now, moving on, another very powerful thing you can do is you yourself can position yourself to become an influencer or a thought leader in your industry so that people reference you. So it wouldn't be like an influencer who like, hey, here's my vacation pictures. Sure, that works for some people, but an interesting influencer who's also a thought leader who people reference is somebody who provides something valuable. Like, for example, one of the sharks from Shark Tank, if you watch that show, Barbara Corcoran, back in the day when she ran her company, she used to create these Corcoran reports about the state of the real estate industry and the pricing and everything. And that industry would start to reference her reports. And so she became the top thought leader just through those reports she would make from the findings of her company. And then, of course, as the thought leader, all the journalists would want to interview her, get her opinion, and that would promote her company each time. And of course, that leads me to the next point is try to identify some interesting findings you're making as you're working in your industry, building your product, dealing with customers. Is there something unique or unexpected? For example, in my business, it became more apparent to me why people fail their companies. And so that would be a great report of like, hey, here's data of like hundreds of thousands of people who use my mobile apps, who take my courses. Here's why things don't work for them. I never actually wrote such a report, but it would be a great idea. Especially the more detailed, the more statistics there could be, the more it would be referenced. And so moving on, every time, not only you launch your main business, but every time you launch some sub feature, some sub product, some product iteration, you can pitch to write about your company and to write about this launch. And as long as you position the features in an interesting way, it would be more likely that the journalists would cover you. And of course, when you're product planning, one additional thing you would plan for is, does this stand out? Does this help us stand out? Does it make us more interesting? Because this is now an additional thing you want to think about. If the things you're building are unique or innovative or stand out, well, you'll naturally get more publicity and attention. So now you can tie that right to your planning phase. And I also want to give you some bonus ideas. I wanted to stay with only 10 ideas, but I wanted to give you a little more. You can also try to get publicity when you reach some milestone, like 1,000 customers, 1 million in revenue, 100,000 in revenue, any kind of milestone. That's a good opportunity to do a publicity blast and reach out to journalists to see if that's interesting for them to cover. And lastly, I want to talk about leveraging your own uniqueness. So if there's anything interesting that you yourself are doing because of yourself, because of your disadvantages or advantages or something you overcame, that's a great story because it's a personal story. So try to use any of these things and maybe multiple of these things to see how you can make your business more unique and better positioned to get publicity naturally and for free.